And we're here with Braedon Pauls, the CEO and co-founder of Fume. Braedon, welcome to the Optimal Performance Podcast.
Thanks for having me. Stoked to be here.
So I want to ask what you're inhaling right now. Typically my first question is almost always, especially for people in like the nutrition space and, authors and, super high performance types is like, what have you put in your body today? But
Yeah.
I'm curious, what are you breathing?
Yeah. So I got peppermint today. Peppermint is what I am breathing today. Got it in the fume and get that awareness and ready to go.
Awesome. So I'm super excited to talk for a number of reasons. I am a fan of essential oils. I have a diffuser in my house. I've actually have three of them. I've done episodes on essential oils before. Linking back to Ayurveda and the power and, the fact that these essential oils are really tied to all of the medicines that we have, these compounds, these powerful compounds. So this is going to be great. I would love to know if you could just start to explain what is fume, how does it work, and why should people care?
Yeah. So what is fume? So fume is an essential oil inhaler. So pretty much what fume does is it makes it so that you can experience the benefits of aromatherapy and of essential oils anywhere in a really simple, easy way and experience those benefits in a really unique way. So pretty much if you were to describe what a fume looks like, it is pretty much a pipe. It would be a wooden pipe in which you would slide a insert in, which would be pre-infused with the essential oils, and then you breathe through that fume. So breathe in through your mouth and exhale through your nose. And that's a great way of you being able to access those benefits of the essential oils. It really quickly gets into your bloodstream, through your olfactory system, all of that very, very quickly. And why does that matter? And why is that a beneficial thing? Well, aromatherapy and essential oils, the benefits, I think we're just getting into it as far as the way they can interact with our bodies. But it's so interesting. This is like the world's natural healing that was built into plants. And now we also can use some of that for people, which is really, really cool. And the space is developing a lot on that and just understanding all of those different aspects of how that can help us.
I too am inhaling the peppermint. I've been toying around with the different blends for a while, and I want to share my experience just right out the gate because I have an oral fixation. I kind of always have since I was a kid. I think talk about Freudian stuff, but I just I like drinking things. I like I'll sometimes just sort of sit and just sort of fiddle with my mouth.
Yeah, yeah.
I've chewed tobacco in my life, and I've smoked cigarettes from time to time, and I'm a cannabis enthusiast, and so I like having a thing, and I like being able to inhale a thing, and I've tried the different blends, and the effect that I get from peppermint is like this prefrontal sort of activation. It's
Yeah.
like I really feel it in my prefrontal cortex, like my third eye. It just sort of like bing, it just sort of comes on. I feel focused. I feel activated. I feel enthusiastic. And I've used that not only for focusing on projects, but also for as a pre-workout.
Yeah.
Why do you use peppermint in a situation like this for the same reasons that I do?
Yeah, yeah. So peppermint actually was like what actually got me started with fume too. Peppermint's just amazing. And so, yeah, I've experienced a lot of those similar effects and I use it for that as well. Like just throughout my day, if you're feeling a little bit down, want to focus on something, want to get tuned in and actually have, get that lightened up, sort of feeling. Peppermint's amazing for that. So I've been using it for that. And actually what was also really interesting is a couple of years ago, I was training for a marathon. And I started using it before my runs as well, just to open up your airways. And peppermint can kind of have some of those effects where it would open up your airways. It pretty much increases your oxygenation and just helps you get more oxygen into your system. And especially, I know as a kid, I had asthma and different things where, I kind of got over it as an adult, but I think I still had some residual of it where my breathing isn't always as clear as it could be, which is just super frustrating, right? And I think there's a lot of people out there that's the case. and literally their athletic performance and just performance in general might be just a stage lower because you're not breathing properly. And so I started using it for that, and I really liked it. And that was actually kind of the original use case that we had actually started with. It was my co-founders. They initially, back in the day, were using Peppermint for that same sort of function, but they didn't have a good way of doing it. So pretty much what they were doing is what they'd be called like tenting, which would pretty much be you take the essential oils, you put some drops on your hands, you cup your hands together, kind of put them over your mouth, and then you just sort of breathe off of your hands into your mouth, and you get a similar effect, but it's not near as potent and it's not near as good, and it's really wasteful. And if you've ever got peppermint essential oil accidentally in your eyes, it's nasty.
Yeah.
You don't want that, and it's just bad. And like if you're getting good essential oil, that stuff it's not exactly cheap stuff either. So it's pretty wasteful in regards to that. So pretty much they were doing that, and they were loving the effects of it. And they're like, hey, there's got to be a better way to like, kind of get the same effect, but then to actually, amplify it as well. So that was kind of the initial sort of problem that sort of pushed us into developing Fume. And yeah, it was super cool because it was just that organic process, and that's kind of how it came around, and Peppermint was the instigator.
There's so much there. There's the power of essential oils, which I think have sort of transitioned out of, sort of airy-fairy woo-woo into like practical. I mean, I've done, like I said, I've done episodes on essential oils before, and I think that people understand that these natural compounds are beneficial.
Yeah.
Right? Like when you inhale something or you rub something on your skin and you absorb it either through the lungs or through the skin, you are experiencing the terpenes and the benefits from those natural compounds. So let's just say, of course, obvious. The other aspects are the quality of the essential oil, right?
Yeah.
Because there's lots of different types of essential oil makers, and just like with any product, there's always the risk of finding like a really high quality version of it. And then we're talking about the delivery system, right? So obviously, when you're inhaling something directly from this, from the cannabis days, which are still happening, I would call this like a chillum. A chillum is like a straight shooter pipe. It's this elegant, like 3.5 inch wood straight pipe. And obviously, rather than filling up a room and sitting near a diffuser in a room to enjoy the aromas and enjoy the effects from it, this is going straight into your lungs, really quickly, which obviously you're going to absorb really quickly. So I want to kind of parse those things out because they're important to like really define when you are understanding this product. So I guess my first question is, what's the process of sourcing the essential oils that you're using in the Fume?
Yeah. So you're completely correct. That quality of the essential oils is very important. And it's that thing where it's one of those industries where what is technically essential oil is kind of a bit vague in the market, right? And it's not like a federally regulated industry or anything like that in any country. It's just, it kind of has a definition, and it is what it is. So there's a lot of variance within what an essential oil is. In the best case, in the worst case, you could get an essential oil that's labeled as an essential oil, but it's actually got a lot of additives that aren't even plant-based and aren't even essential oil. And then also, not a slightly better, but still not a great scenario, you could get essential oil that is, it is from plants, it is, technically essential oil, but it's just not very potent and it's not very pure, and the purification process hasn't been done properly. So that's very important, because obviously that worst case scenario, if you're getting something that has those additives in it and whatever, like that's like potentially, again, that's your cheap Walmart kind of just buying off of Amazon type stuff. It's hard to know what's in there, right? And that is a bad scenario. And we don't recommend that people use that. So you want to be looking into the company and actually seeing, the different scores and the different tests that they do to test the actual purity of that essential oil and the quality, and knowing where it comes from, because that's very important. And so, like, for our team, we make sure that with our sourcing that we're actually looking at that and verifying that, because like lots of those benefits and effects are based on 100% like the quality of what you're getting, right? Because if it's low quality stuff, you could potentially actually be doing something that's not beneficial at all, right? So yeah, very important for us, and definitely something that our team puts a lot of time into, and making sure that we are getting those quality oils and working with the right partners to get those.
Yeah. So when you first decided, like, did you guys invent this delivery system? Like, had this ever been done before, or were ancient yogis doing this in one way or another?
Yeah.
Because I can't tell if it's an ancient practice or if it's super cutting edge.
Yeah. So for us, we invented it. So we just had this concept, like I said, we're like, hey, there's got to be a better way to be able to use essential oils. And this is pretty much the design and the device that we came up with. And it's kind of interesting, after we created it and actually started getting into the market, we did some more research and different things and found out that there wasn't anything on the market that was similar, but there was like this crazy study and a patent that had been filed like way back in the 70s or something like that. That was actually a smoking cessation product that used essential oils and was pretty much the same design as what we made, even though we didn't know it. But luckily the patent had been expired and everything, and that was all good, so it's public domain. But it was crazy because we were like, whoa, wait, like somebody else already had this idea and everything. But it's crazy, yeah. So it was our original design. We didn't have any outside influence, but then we found out that, yeah, there has been people doing a similar practice, but nobody's ever really done it well and brought it to the market in a way that's accessible and great for people. So
got it. So let's start with, because we're gonna go down lots of different rabbit holes, and it's my style to jump around a little bit. Tell me a little bit about what the benefits are, because the cool part is on the website, it's like, if you want smoking cessation, if you want immune boosting, if you want relaxation, and I think it's smart marketing, and it makes sense, because people need to know the feeling they get, the purpose of the thing that they're doing. Because you could say, black pepper, like, well, fine, but I don't know what the benefits of black pepper are. Yeah. So if you wouldn't just like start at the top and work your way down of what the benefits are, which blends for what, and how you,
So I guess typically I kind of split out the benefits into sort of two different categories, and they overlap, but it's just a helpful framework. But oftentimes we'll talk about them as the psychological benefits and the physiological benefits. So starting with the psychological side, your olfactory system, your scent system, it's very linked into your brain, right? Like, and it's actually really interesting because scent and emotion are actually very tied. Like your scent centers. Wow, why am I trying to say that? That's a fun one. Are actually in the same region as your amygdala, which is controlling all your emotional responses and everything like that. And there's been a lot of research and neuroscience that showed that strong correlation between how scents can trigger different emotional states. So first off, like that psychological bit is so interesting. There's so many different areas you can go there with that. But so like that, for example, let's just take the quit smoking example. If you're using the black pepper, it's not completely understood what all the different mechanisms of how that's helping people. It's just mostly understood that it is. But on the psychological side, that black pepper essential oil, that's triggering certain scents or certain systems in your brain that's having some certain interactions that seem to be reducing that craving and or replacing that. And then more on the physiological side, that's kind of the secondary effects. You have how essential oils are kind of more interacting with the rest of your body, right? For example, that's the effect with the peppermint in exercise and opening up your airways and everything like that. That's those physiological benefits. So there's kind of those two categories, and to start kind of breaking through that. So sort of the different things that we like to be able to help people with is, number one, that decongestion and just opening up your airways for exercise and that type of thing. So peppermint's our go-to for that. Peppermint's great for opening up your airways, breathing better, that pre-workout, everything with that. And then as well as, like you were saying earlier, being able to get into that, focused state and feel more invigorated. Peppermint's great for that on the psychological side. So that's one of the sort of base ones there for us. Secondarily, there's more the anxiety and anxious side. So lavender has been really great for that. And we've kind of taken lavender, as more the traditional one, and we've actually created a blend that's called Reassurance that takes lavender and takes some of the other different essential oils that are also known for their more calming properties and put them together in a blend with our team here. That's really just formulated just for that. So, it's in the name, Reassurance. That's the idea. That's what it's doing for you. So there's that. So that's anxiety, that's exercise. Some of the other benefits that we really like to look at is, I've talked about it a little bit here, but black pepper and the quit smoking, which is pretty crazy. Like the scale and the scope of the damage that smoking's doing on culture right now is pretty insane. I think it's the number one cause of preventable death, right? The number one cause. And it's like on average, smoking like takes 10 years off your life, right? Like that's 10 years that you're spending with your grandkids. That's 10 years that you're living longer. And that's on average. So on some people, that might be that it's taken 25 years off, and on other people it might be like not taking anything. But that's 10 years on average. That's a lot of dang years. If I look back over the last 10 years, lots happened in my life. And I'm pretty sure most people would want to spend another 10 years. And then it's not just that people are dying from that, but it's that it's also affecting your quality of life when you're living, right? There's a lot of negative effects there. So anyways, that's a huge problem. But more specifically, that's really exciting with that is that black pepper essential oil together with fume can be a great solution there. So the actual effects of the black pepper itself have kind of been shown just by sort of inhaling that they can kind of mimic some of the sensory experience that you would sort of get with smoking to be able to help people replace. And so that was some research that was done sort of standalone. But then if you combine that with something like fume, where you can actually have that tactile, something in your hand, like you're talking oral fixation, actually replace that old habit with a new habit and all of that. You're getting the physiological, you're getting the psychological, you're getting the tactile all together there with that quit smoking, which is just so cool. So that one's like, obviously they're all exciting for us, but we're really excited about that because there's just so much potential there. I could probably go on and on. I think I covered a couple there, but I could dive into a few more too if you want.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that the smoking cessation argument alone is compelling enough to give credence to what you guys are doing. The fact that there was an old patent from the 70s for someone that said, "Hey, let's replace a cigarette. Let's put it in a straight pipe sort of thing that someone can hold with essential oils, or they can breathe it in instead of, all of the gnarly damage." And you took it one step further, which is, well, let's give you a blend of something that might actually work on your brain and on your physiology to help you curb that craving. For me, I've been, I'm sort of a social smoker from time to time, and I'm not social anymore. A, because of kids. B, because I moved away from everybody, and C, because of quarantines and so forth. Yeah. So smoking isn't a big thing for me. But what I do is I chew nicotine gum because I use it as a nootropic. So if I've got a long work day, on most days, a lot of days where I'm going from 8 o'clock until 5, going for dinner and bedtime routine with my kids, and then going back to work to edit podcasts or have coaching calls, I may go through 5 or 6 pieces of nicotine gum in a given day. And so what I've been doing is I've been trying to alternate between when I get that moment where I'm like, I need a little pick me up. I need to go. I have 2 of the devices. Yeah. And in one I have peppermint, and in the other I have black pepper. Yeah. And so instead of using the gum, I'll inhale the black pepper. And it does sort of like, you're good, relax, Yeah. Because I still have nicotine coursing through my veins, I guess is my point. It's like, I'm still on the hook a little bit for nicotine, and it's a 2 milligram piece of gum. But now, instead of the compulsion, which is rip open a piece of gum, chew it feverishly, and just like attack the keyboard, now I'll use the inhaler with the black pepper. That will like kind of remind me, just slow down, dude. Just chill out for a second. And then the peppermint to get the sort of focus that I want. And it's been really useful. So now instead of 6 pieces a day, sometimes, up to like 8 or 10 pieces a day when I'm really, really focused, now it's like 2 or 3. So not only is it more affordable because you can get the starter pack, you can get the Fume starter pack for $55. You use the code OPP for 10% off. But it's more affordable. It's better for you. It's giving you a delivery system with some beneficial oils that are actually having some, beneficial effect to your body. And, I don't know, man, like tell me about some of the use cases for the smoking cessation. I know that you guys have a lot of testimonials about those.
Yeah. So oftentimes for people, same thing with the negative habits of smoking is that, there's both the psychological effect and the physiological effect there, where people are wanting something to physically hold. They're wanting something to actually, replace that habit, because it's like, sometimes it's not even that your body needs whatever the substance is. It's that you just have a habit, right? And you just do things a certain way. And you're like, I'm just used to doing this, right? And we're such creatures of habit, which is like an amazing thing if those habits are great and pushing you towards success. But if those habits are pushing you towards a direction you're not stoked in, that's not a great thing. That's like the road to destruction, right? So being able to give something to people where it's not just hitting one or the other of the physiological and the psychological, it can actually hit both, is just so exciting. And so I think one of the stories that I kind of look back on is there was this middle-aged mom. She'd been smoking for years and had wanted to find a solution, and she'd kind of looked at vapes and different things as being something that she would look at. But that everybody's starting to find out of the negative effects of vapes, and she's like, no, I don't want to do that. And so somehow she stumbled upon us on the internet, and she ended up I think she got the Fume Quit Naturally pack. And for her, she was able to quit within a week. She kind of went cold turkey and was using the Fume, and she was just blown away. She was like, wow, this actually worked better than I thought it would, right? And it was like, for her, like, her motivation was like, okay, I want to get off this because I have a son here. He's watching me. I know this is something that I'm not wanting to do. This isn't the person I'm wanting to be, but here I am. I'm stuck in this, and I want to be able to get out and live that healthier life that I know is out there, but I know I should be doing it, but I just can't get over that hump. And so it was like, to hear stories like that from people, and to just be, if we can be a small part of that journey for some people, of just making some of those changes towards creating those positive habits, like, that's insane. I'm so, like, that's what powers us up here at Fume, and that's what gets us so excited. And that's what we run on. And hearing those stories, because that's individual people that are changing their lives for the better, and are actually making that progress towards a better life. Because habits are nuts, right? Like, it's that compound interest effect where it's kind of like being able to do something without thinking about it, right? Like, when you're first learning something, it's like completely prefrontal cortex. You're completely like ton of focus, and that's when creative work is hard, right? Like, you're like building something new, and your brain's literally wiring new pathways and everything, and it's difficult. But then if you change something into a habit, pretty soon you can be the person cruising down the highway, home from work, and you don't even realize it, and you're at home already, and you're like, yeah, I drove, but I never put any intention into it at all, right? And it actually didn't take very much energy because it's just completely habit. And it's like, in the same way, if people can start to build those positive habits, and we love being a part of that, that can push them towards a better future with that compound interest, because you do that one positive habit today, and then you do it tomorrow, and then you do it the day after that. Those positive benefits, they just keep on stacking, right? And you do one positive habit, and maybe that makes you a little bit healthier, so you can do another thing and another thing and another thing, and before you know it, you're a completely different person, and you're not even trying that hard to do it.
Yeah.
right? Which is, I think, the biggest thing, because we all know who we should be and what we should do, but that's hard, right? And especially if you're getting up every day and you have this massive list of all these different things, like that's not easy, right? And so it's like, for us, we're interested in how we can help with aromatherapy and content and everything to really set people up to be able to build those positive habits, because I think it's something that can transform the world. Like, it literally can transform the world. Because you get a bunch of people, especially if that's switching from a negative habit to a positive habit, that's nuts, right? If that's with your health, if that's with your emotions, whatever that's with, that's changing a lot. So that's what powers us. And we like, being able to establish those habits. So it's like, for some people, the biggest barrier in creating that habit is that motivation. It's that motivation. It's like, the classic thing. I'm going to wake up the first time my alarm goes off every morning, right? Like, but we know that we want to do it, but then you're in the moment and you just can't, like, it's hard, right? And so for us, we really are interested in the idea of psychological anchoring with aromatherapy and how that can help people. So, for example, like we were talking earlier about how on the more emotional side, how your emotions can be very linked to scent, and how scent can kind of trigger states for us, right? And so that's great. That's a great component. But like, what if you're able to take that scent, that sort of triggered state, and then also associate that with a specific habit? So it's like, hey, I want to work out every morning, but it's hard to get over the hump, to get into the groove and actually do it. But you start using whatever essential oil that you sort of want to associate with that habit continually, that you now, before you work out, you use your fume with, for example, one of our blends, Reassurance or Shield, and you use that every morning. Your brain and your body are starting to associate that state of being ready to work out and that pattern of being ready to work out with that scent, so that you're now being able to sort of trigger that motivation and trigger that state for yourself. And that's not something that happens like this, right? But you've probably heard the classic Pavlov's dog type thing, right? And you can do that with yourself to be able to start doing that, right? And it sounds like you're kind of doing it with peppermint already, where, there's obviously some of those natural effects with peppermint. But if you're like, hey, it's focus time when I'm using peppermint, and that's just the way it is, and your body starts associating that, you can start, triggering the states. Or if it's like, hey, whenever I'm doing meditation and associating that meditative state with a reassurance, you know what I mean? You can start pairing those two and just getting yourself into that state. Anyways, I was rambling there. There's a lot of stuff.
No, that's excellent stuff. That's powerful. The I think we all know the impact of our olfactory system, right? We know that our memory is linked to our sense of smell. You smell your you smell the same perfume that your, 8th grade girlfriend wore. 20 years later, you're going to immediately think of Angie Miller, like Angie Miller. And that's it, and
100%.
the same thing with going to the gym, stepping onto a soccer field and the smell of fresh cut grass, like, means something to you.
Yeah.
Going to the gym and like smelling like the rubber mats, like, it means something to you. It activates a part of your brain and a part of your sort of motivation. I'm really fascinated by that, using the undeniable power of literally programming yourself through essential oils, through the fume. So it's like, okay, well, now I'm going to start to relax. It's the evening time. I know that I want to relax. Okay, well then I'm gonna use Reassurance to like remind myself when I use the inhaler and I use Reassurance. It's like, okay, that's the trigger for me to chill out and slow down. I think that's really, really cool. Habit hacking,
Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting because it's like we do this with music already, right? With our auditory systems. Like, it's just so normal to us, and it's so a part of our lives that we don't even think of it as a type of like hacking or whatever. But it's like, what do you do on that last section of your run where you really got to push through? You get that hype music, man. You get that song that you just jam to, and it's weird. Your body responds. Like, I don't know. I think it's pretty universal. It's like, yeah, you get your jam music on, you're ready to go, right? Or you want to chill, get some great classical on, and you're gonna do that, right? Like that concept is so ubiquitous in culture already, and we do it all the time. But it's like we're kind of missing out on a whole different sense there with the olfactory system, with scent, that you can do that similar thing with. And it just hasn't really been explored properly. And so we're really excited to like keep on developing more and more blends and more content and more strategies for people to be able to do that, because we think that's so cool, right? Because it's like it's everybody just that's just a given, right? If you're like, hey, I'm gonna get my workout music on and that's gonna hype me up. It's like maybe you have a scent that is also that, or maybe you start stacking those where you're like, hey man, when I'm hype, I take this blend and I take this song and then I also wear these pants or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. And it starts seeming silly, but the body and our psychology, it reacts to this stuff and it reacts positively.
Totally. I mean, I've done some work with Stephen Kotler at the Flow Research Collective, and we've, explored different triggers, right? Hack flow state triggers, right? And, for Stephen, it's like, half a cup of coffee, like half a toke on a joint, half a, he's a smoker, so it's like half cigarette, and Bach, and then he's ready to ski. And
Yeah.
and then he, that's his zone. And for the rest of us that are looking at ways, for me, and I really do mean this. This is sort of the best of biohacking in my opinion, because it takes a natural product, process that's on demand, that you can control, that you can modify and tinker with to elicit states of being that you want for you.
Yeah.
And for now, we have the options that you provide to us: shield, reassurance, and so we can use those to elicit different states of consciousness, different states of performance. And not only is it effective, but it's also beneficial. I just think it's brilliant. You mentioned the name. I know I'm hearing people say, well, what's in Shield? Because you mentioned that blend. Can you explain what's in the Shield blend?
Yeah, so Shield, I think it has some eucalyptus in it. I think it would have some clove in it. I'm blanking on some of the other ones, but definitely I'm fairly sure there's eucalyptus, clove, and then other ones that are sort of known for their more immunity boosting antiviral properties. And it's just crazy, like that research there. And like you were mentioning terpenes earlier, and the association of, obviously essential oils are full of terpenes. But it's so interesting, and we're actually partnered with a company that we work with in Israel, and they're more specifically a terpenes research company, and we're working on launching some blends with them. But they've been doing some research around sort of those effects of terpenes on immunity and on antibacterial and antimicrobial type things. And obviously the one that's big right now, it's like, what are we talking about? Why is our world shut down? It's like, it's COVID, right? And it's so cool. This lab, they're called IBNA, and they're based in Israel, and they're actually going through and doing studies on a blend of terpenes that's been shown to outperform the leading sort of steroid treatment right now for COVID. And their blend is called antiviral, and we're potentially going to do like a partnership with them. But they're doing the trials right now, and it's showing that it's outperforming it. Like these natural compounds taken in a respiratory form, and that they're actually more effective than more of the generic pharmaceutical approaches. So it's like there's been so much in natural health. Like I think there's this weird dichotomy, and it'd be interesting to get your perspectives on this, in natural health, where there's the people that are really on the far side, where it's like they overclaim, right? And who knows if it's true or not, but they overclaim and the science isn't there. And then like mainstream culture can just bunch all natural health with that. And it's just like ridiculous. And then the funding doesn't go into actually like proving out these concepts with these different products. And then most of the time they find out that, the natural health products, they'll have the same or better effects as the pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
But it's a lot harder to research them, and there's no patents and all these different things, right? And it's just so frustrating to me, where it's like sometimes like nature's given us some of these solutions out there, and we haven't actually accessed them, and we haven't we haven't implemented them because of some of our silly kind of governmental systems and different things. Which again, I get that they're there to protect us and everything, but sometimes with the whole big pharma system, it can be a little bit frustrating because, like, for example.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I'm not claiming anything. You got to go look at their own research and everything. So I'm not saying that this cures COVID, just to clarify. But go look at the studies, and the studies are looking dang good. But it's like, is this getting rushed through and everything? No, it's like it's the other treatments. It's more of the pharmaceuticals, and that are getting the majority of the attention. I guess it's the world we're in right now, but it's like, I think for us, it's like we want to try to take an approach where we can start to get some of those benefits out to people and start to do that research that's actually founded and grounded as we continue to grow, because it's like, yeah, we want people to benefit from this stuff and actually be able to access it. And for the most part, it's either been stigmatized or it's just not accessible to people throughout history, right? And so we want to try to break that, make it accessible, and actually kind of make it something that people are ready to use.
Yeah, that came up in the last episode that I did with Dr. Eric Zelinsky, Dr. Z and Mamazee. They've written essential oil books. They've really committed their whole life to integrative health, and we talked about it. It's like there's no big essential oil isn't a thing, right? Like, right, big extract is not like a thing. I doubt that there's lobbyists in Congress for essential oils here in the States. Like, I really, really doubt that. And why is that? Is because if you knew that you could use an essential oil to relax, if you knew that you could use an essential oil to get peppy and focus, if you knew that you could potentially use an essential oil in a breathable way to like clear out your lungs or instigate some sort of immune response, antimicrobial, antifungal, like that's really compelling, and it doesn't behoove the big bad corporations who are trying to make a dollar on chemical compounds to do that. So I think that it's a really excellent point, and kudos to you guys for exploring this and taking it. I do have a question. And have you looked at whether or not it's potentially detrimental to be inhaling these essential oils in these? I mean, the thought crossed my mind. I can't imagine.
Yeah. So, like, aromatherapy has been used for years, right? And essential oil with aromatherapy has been used for a very, very long time. And there's been a lot of studies with nasal inhalers. There's been a lot of studies with different ways of using essential oils. And pretty much what it's shown is, unless you're like hitting the crazy extreme levels of using way too much, there isn't those negative effects. So pretty much the way that that's working is, like, essential oils, they're a compound that they're going to evaporate, right? Like, those molecules are so small that literally if you leave that essential oil container open on your desk, it's going to be gone like in 2 or 3 days. Like, the whole thing's going to evaporate because those molecules are so small that they're volatile and they're going to be taken into the air, right? And that same effect makes it so that it naturally will disperse itself very evenly and not congregate, right? In the same way, like, typically when we think of oils, we think of things like motor oil or olive oil or whatever, which is a very different substance where it actually, that will just sit there and just kind of be its own thing, right? And it'll accumulate over time. Whereas that difference with essential oils is they're actually something that's going to be dispersing itself throughout your body or throughout the air very, very quickly. So for that reason, it's very safe in that obviously, if you drink a bottle of essential oil or something like that, you're going to be in rough shape. But like with our cores, the amount that's being used and everything is all within those typical guidelines of what has been approved. And for us, it's like we're continuing looking at getting more and more research to really validate this in the wider market. Like, there's been a lot of preliminary research, but to be able to continue to validate that, but all the science would show that, this is fine.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I mein, how many other strange things are people inhaling that are no bueno? What's some essential oil? Why in through your mouth and then out through your nose?
Yeah. So your olfactory system, like there's kind of sensors actually, like your taste and your smell are very linked. And you've probably had that before where you taste something, you're like, this tastes like that smell of that other thing, right? And so it's kind of weird, like the olfactory system and the taste system are very linked. But there actually is olfactory receptors in your mouth as well, for smell. But the most of them are in your nose. So when you're taking it in through your mouth, you are getting some of those more of the what we were talking about earlier, the psychological effects where it's actually interacting with your smell and your brain and everything like that. But then exhaling through your nose, that's also then accessing the rest of your olfactory system so that you're getting both together and you're getting that whole pretty much the whole olfactory system
Got
actually
it.
sort of stimulated.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Oh, okay. Yeah, that does make sense. Um, I know that just because we've been talking for a bit and I've been doing the research. It sounds like Ben Greenfield was a nice little promo. It sounds like he uses it. Can you tell a little
Yeah.
bit about how Ben found you and how he started to
Yeah.
use it?
Yeah, I don't even actually know specifically how Ben found us. He just found us, and he started using it. And yeah, I think he uses it kind of for pre-workout, and then also for some of the other wind down and different things. And yeah, he found it, and that was kind of our entrance into the biohacking space. Like we were primarily kind of focused on people who already are using essential oils, which are biohackers, but we hadn't necessarily entered and talked much in the biohacking space. And so then we started talking with Ben, and he really enjoyed it. And it's kind of been this thing of for us really realizing, hey, this is something that could really help a lot of biohackers. And so that was kind of the start of it. And yeah, we're continuing ongoing, kind of have that relationship with Ben there, which is really really cool. Obviously, somebody like him who's he's done a lot of thought into this stuff, and he really thinks through what he's using. We really appreciate that, and it's really cool. And I remember the day when that order came through. Somebody on our team was like, "Hey, do you know this guy?" Like, and we looked it up. And we're like, "Oh, cool! Wow, this is crazy." We're
Nice.
like, "All right, this is really great. We got to partner with this guy. This is gonna be great." So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Tell us a little bit about the pro. Well, let me take a different direction. For people who are no, we're gonna edit this shit out. uh,
All good.
um, walk me through the sort of R&D process for creating the different blends, because I mean you're talking about cloves and eucalyptus. I'm just gonna pull out my little package.
Yeah.
The cores are awesome, and I'm just going to describe these to people really quickly who aren't watching. They're little cotton tubes, little cores that you put into the actual the fume inhaler, and you can smell them. They come in these Ziploc pouches that you can so that it keeps the cores fresh without them evaporating. But as I look at these different flavors, right? Peppermint, conker, eucalyptus, black pepper, lavender, reassurance, and shield. That's a lot of different flavors. And I'm just curious, what's the R&D process for developing these different blends?
Yeah. So I think for us, we kind of would start primarily with, okay, what is the goal of this blend, right? What are we wanting to be able to help people with specifically with this blend? So I guess we could talk through Conquer was actually one that launched recently, and for us, we've seen that black pepper is very helpful for people with quitting smoking, but also that people want some different flavor together with that, and some people find that certain flavors are better for that quitting experience. So that was kind of our starting point. So then we would take that, we would do research on the individual essential oils, look at some of the studies of what's been done previously and sort of the effects that people have been seeing with the different essential oils. So that would be kind of our base point of saying, okay, so this is kind of the different essential oils that we're wanting to use in this blend have been shown to have these different effects. So let's start formulating there. So it's kind of an art and a science together. So then we'd start with that, but then there's the secondary bit of that would be more focused on the physiological side, but we also want to have those psychological benefits, right? And some of that is just that people want, if something tastes good and is something that they enjoy, they're going to want to use it more often, and it's going to be more beneficial for them, and is going to be more likely to be triggering those states and that type of thing. So that's the secondary aspect of then once that original kind of, iteration number one blend is done, we would then take that to our team here in house and test it and get flavor feedback and say, hey, what do you think about this blend? What do you like? What do you don't like? Is there more notes you'd like to see just from a flavor perspective? And then take that, and then also take that to some customers, see that, and go through a few iteration processes there of trying to balance both getting those physiological effects that we're seeing, and then also the psychological effects, and then taking the feedback that we've already got from customers and what's working well for them and what's not, and then continuing to iterate there. So that's kind of our process of creating the blends and what we would do there. And then we got a kind of a secondary vein right now where we're working more on specifically on the terpene side. We haven't launched any of these yet. So this is kind of up and coming, haven't really been public about this. So first time we're talking about it, but like I said, we're working with a company in Israel, and they specialize in terpene flavor formulation as well as terpenes, like 4 different physiological effects, like I was saying with their antiviral blend. So we've been working with them to really work on developing some blends as well, more on the terpene side, which is really exciting as well. And for them, they would follow a similar process. But they've actually been doing it for even longer than we have. So it's cool. We've been able to combine some of our knowledge and combine our different things together and have some collaboration there. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Super cool. Yeah, I'm conscious of like, well, what else could there be, right? Because could there be like, could there be like a sexy time blend? Could there be like a, could there be like a, trippy, like altered state of consciousness blend? Yeah. Could there be a, vacation on the beach blend? I don't know.
Yeah.
I imagine within the world of essential oils and with it and with working with that company in Israel, it's probably tough to just pick one. I'm sure that if it were up to you guys, you'd probably make, you'd have 100 by now. It's probably tough to like edit that down and stay focused and get the right blends, right?
Yeah, and we've tried to have more of an approach of like let's do quality over quantity, all right, and do the right ones. So I think right now we kind of have our 3 different custom blends that we would can kind of have on our store at all times, and then we also do some that are just purely for flavor. And we've been doing those with our holiday blends, which are actually just purely for the psychological kind of joy of it. We have sort of a gingerbread, we'd have like frosty forest, we'd have cozy chai, some of these flavors that are pretty much formulated with essential oils to mimic some of these awesome holiday flavors just for people to enjoy. So is so many veins, but we're trying to keep it simple where we can communicate clearly to people like, hey, this is this and it works well for that, and we've formulated it for that, and we want to keep on building that library, and that's where we're going to be going, but doing that in the right way where we're doing the research and really getting the formulations awesome, so we're hitting that quality over just the quantity, because also quantity, it just can start being a little bit overwhelming for people, and we want to start you off good and make sure that's a good experience.
Yeah. I don't want to miss the community aspect, the giving aspect of this. Classic for a natural product company from Canada to also have big hearts, right? For you guys to be not only stylish people and warm and kind with great products, but also giving back to the community. Can you tell us just a little bit about what you guys are doing to make the world a better place? Because I think it does make a difference. I think when people are looking at like, do I want to try this? How interested am I in this? And then you realize, oh my gosh, you guys are also doing things to help people who don't have the same resources or access that we might. So please tell us a little bit about the benefits.
Yeah. And thanks for the Canadian compliment, by the way.
Yeah, it's true.
No, I guess fundamentally, like for me in leading our business, I believe that businesses are meant to serve, right? And like if you really boil it down, that's why we exist, right? And there's been so many businesses out there in the world that are just 100%, just like let's make money for shareholders and let's pump stuff out into the world, right? And for me, I think there's a great opportunity that's getting missed there where I'm excited about companies that building companies and being a part of companies and supporting companies that aren't just doing it for themselves. Like, and it's like for me, I'm so excited because I feel like we get the perfect thing where we get to serve customers by making an awesome product that enhances their life. Hopefully we can be serving our staff by having an awesome place to work, and then serving a broader community as well with some stuff like you're saying with our giving outside of that. So we've partnered with an orphanage in Kenya, their M4K orphanage, and it's nuts because they were actually an orphanage where they weren't getting enough donations to just cover their food needs. And this was just people that were in Kenya, and literally Kenyan people who just saw kids that were orphans and were like, we got to care for these kids. And so we heard about this and we're like, dang, that's insane. Like these people are literally like, they don't have the money to do this and they're just doing it. And we're like, what can we kind of do? So that was kind of initially, and we made sort of a statement that we're like, hey, every fume that we sell, we're going to give $2 to this orphanage and to support them and what they're doing. And it's like, yeah, we've been able to help, we've been able to help keep over 100 kids fed over the last couple of years, which is insane.
Wow.
And just so cool. And I can tell you that it's like, as a CEO in a startup, it's not like there's extra money that's just like, oh yeah, like it's great. If anybody knows anything about starting a business, it's not an easy thing to do. But that's something that we've been excited about, and we genuinely believe that, yeah, we want to serve and we want to give back and we want to make a positive difference in the world, and that's been what that's looked like. So obviously I was hoping to go to Kenya and actually meet some of these kids and everything. We were actually kind of planning that pre-COVID, and it was going to be last April or something, so that all kind of got kiboshed. But hopefully sometime in the soon here I can actually go and meet those kids and document it and bring that back to like the Fume family, which is like everybody who's using Fume, but also like our crew here, and just actually share the stories. And it's been so cool. Like right now they're actually they needed a new building, so they're working on building a new building for these kids to live in, and we've been able to help them fundraise and different things. So yeah, I'm just really excited about how businesses can do a lot of good in the world. For me, it's like that's that magic sauce. It's like, I guess the question we kind of ask is like being a sustainable business by sort of the criteria of like, could we just keep on doing what we're doing over and over and over, and would it be net positive effects, right? Like in the way we do things environmentally, in the way we treat customers, in the way, right? Like, is all of that actually contributing? It's that positive habits thing. It's that compound interest thing. If we just let this thing run indefinitely, is it going to be continually creating good? And like the thing is like if you put the hard analysis on most businesses, I don't know. I don't think you're getting very good results on that question, right? And that's a sad thing.
Yeah.
It's a sad thing for everybody involved. And I get it. There's a lot of this Amazon mentality out there. Like, let's just get it as cheap as possible from wherever it is. Doesn't matter about the environment. Doesn't matter about whether it's slaves making it. Right? Like, and that's kind of pervaded our culture. But I think there's a lot more people who are really caring about this stuff and wanting to do things differently, which I'm so excited about. And I'm so excited that we can kind of champion that way of doing business. So
it's such a cool thing. You don't see it that frequently. And for like you said, a startup company that's already making a product that helps people, to allocate a portion of every single purchase, these are not expensive to purchase, right? If you want to get in here and you want to try this out and enjoy all these different blends and like have some fun with it and enjoy it and see the benefits, the price point is not astronomical, right? It's, you could get started and try a bunch of different blends for a pretty low price point. You could do the starter pack for $55 and get 10% off. You could do the holiday box for $77. And to say that you're going to allocate $2 from every purchase, like that's a huge deal. That really does add up. And to like, it's always it's always the smaller companies with the big hearts and the right vision to try to actually help people that make the difference. Like, we can't count on big businesses and big corporations to do it because they won't. So when I was doing my diligence on you guys when we first connected, I was just so struck by that, and to hear the statistics, to hear that a couple hundred kids are being able to eat at an orphanage in Kenya because of what you guys are doing is phenomenal. It just makes me love you guys that much more. Super cool.
Oh, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it gets us excited too, and I hope that it can be something that other businesses can be a part of. And it's like, for us, it's like we see that, hey, we got a bit of a platform, and like, let's use it to connect people. All right, and if we can be a part of empowering other people and being that connector, being that help to help them do good in the world, so that they can be the hero and that they can help more, like, that's awesome, right? Like, and that's really exciting for us, is like, how can we position ourselves in a way that we can help you be better in the world, and that that your purchase is like, you're like, yeah, I stand with these guys are doing cool stuff, like, let's support that, right? And that's important to us.
I wanted to just read a couple testimonials because I just think they're great. From one woman, awesome product. I haven't had a cigarette or vape since I started replacing my habit with fume. From another person, love the peppermint cores. Would recommend this to help people that want to quit smoking. Another one, I'm absolutely obsessed with my fume. I had been under the weather with respiratory issues, and fume helped me so much. Both the eucalyptus and peppermint was my saving grace. Now that I'm feeling well, I've been using my fume for my day-to-day needs. I mean, that kind of says it, right? Like, smoking cessation. Oh my gosh, it tastes good. Lasting aromas, all the way to, I've been under the weather. I've been feeling well, and now I'm using this, and I can breathe better, and it's like saving my butt. Like, that's a pretty big deal. That I mean, 568 reviews. That's a lot of reviews, and it looks like it's like 4 3/4 stars. That's a massive amount of reviews. Number one, kudos on getting reviews, and number two, to have that much of that high of a score for that many reviews is pretty incredible. Well, as we take the episode kind of home, I like to end with a last question, and I want to reinforce the special offer that you guys have created. But is there anything that I didn't ask in this conversation that you think, like, man, I was really kind of stoked to talk about this one thing? Anything at all that I may have missed?
No, I think you did a great job, Sean. It's been really good.
All right. Then another question: what do the haters say? This is I love this question because whether it's workout equipment or green juice or a breathing technique, I always love to ask this question, and everybody has that same response, like, the haters. So what do the haters say?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, because it's like, the funny thing is I used to be the hater, so and now I'm the guy who's like the advocate and all in it. So yeah, it's funny, but yeah, the haters would be like, hey, essential oils don't have any effects. This is just pretty much hyped up stuff that doesn't affect your body in any way. All of the stuff about the physiological effects, all of that is just BS, and it's no good, right? Like, and that's what people would say, and that essential oils are just pretty much a phase or a fad, right? Which is just, I get it, and I think those people are bitter because there's been probably people who have overrepresented different things or wrongly represented things along the way, and they have their crazy aunt who uses essential oils for everything and is a little bit of a kooky case, right? Like, I get it, but at the same time, it's just like, I don't know. Look into it, man. Try it. See, like, let's see. Like, and like you said, go read the reviews. Go talk to people that have used it. Like, and it was this crazy thing where it's like, we've been at events sometimes where we're at a health and wellness event or some sort of public event, and we're selling fume to people and talking with people, and oftentimes people are really skeptical, and then usually my thing is like, hey, here's a tester. Try this. Like, just try it, and then let me know what you think. And like, literally pretty much like 90% of the time, the person tries it and they're like, oh wow, that's crazy. I did not expect it to be like that. That's really good. Like tastes good, but it also feels good. And like, I really like this. And I'm just like, there you go, right? Like, it's like, I don't have to try to explain all this to you. You've just experienced it, right? And so like, that's what I would say to the haters is like, hey, try it out for yourself. I'm not trying to prove anything to you. Go try it. See if it works for you. And it works for some people and it doesn't work for other people. That's fine. But it's been working for a lot of people. So
Nice. I bet that feels good when, you know, some arm crossed skeptic is like, oh, this, you know, that's just like you said, that's my wacky aunt trying to rub essential oil on everything, on bruises, and that's hokey and namby-pamby. And then you just like, here, try this. And then they do. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's really nice. Oh, I really like that. Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
That must feel amazing.
Well, and I think too, like I often talk to people where it's like, you know, even if you're not super stoked on and not completely convinced on the physiological sides, what we've been talking about on the psychological sides, that's even more scientifically proven out than the physiological side, right? Like there's been research on both sides, but that idea of creating habits and provoking states with aromatherapy and that type of thing, that stuff's well researched. And it's like, you know, do you feel a certain way when you go in a forest and smell stuff? Do you feel a certain way when you come into the house and there's fresh baked cookies, right? Like it's just so fundamental to our biology. And it's like, this is a way that you can start controlling that and actually using that for your benefit. So anyways, yeah, just so excited about that. And just try it.
Try it. Just try it, suckers. I love it. That's so cool. Well, the last question is a question that it's a fill in the blank. And, you know, this is based on anything and everything that you know. Well, first, before we do this, tell people where they can go. I'll remind them that they can use the code OPP for 10% off. But yeah, please direct people where to go.
Yeah, for sure. So our main site, fumeessential.com. So that's FUMessential.com. We also have the weird umlaut in some of our stuff, but just the plain FUMessential.com is our website. You can get all of our stuff on there. There's all our blogs, all of our resources. And then as far as socials and being able to follow us, probably the best spot would be Instagram. We're at Breathe Fume is our handle on there. And that's where we're at.
Nice. So this is the fill in the blank question. This can be based on anything and everything that you know. It doesn't have to be specifically pertaining to essential oils or fume or whatever. You can elaborate as much or as little as you'd like, but please fill in the blank. Everyone would benefit from knowing
positive habits can transform your life. I really believe that. I really believe in that compound interest effect. I've seen it in my own life. I've seen it in other people's lives. You know, whatever that positive habit is, you know, maybe that's reading once a day for 15 minutes. Maybe that's working out for 15 minutes. You know, it seems small in a daily thing, but you start doing those little things day by day and make a habit out of it, and you make your norm something that's pushing you towards growth. That's gonna reap that compound interest. Like in investing in yourself and better health, whatever it is, it's gonna reap those benefits. And I really believe in that. And I think that sometimes we underestimate how much that can transform our lives.
Well said, man. Well said. Braedon Pauls, thank you so much for joining me today on the Optimal Performance Podcast.
Thanks so much.
And scene. Nice.